Good evening. Welcome to the Eastern Essex District Department of Veteran Services. Let everybody know that this meeting is being video and audio by Ipswich Media, right? iPad. Okay. Moving on, this is the meeting of February 15th, 2023. And the first on the agenda is citizens' query. Is there anyone wishes to say anything? There's nobody here. So we'll move on to the meeting minutes. And has anyone read the minutes? Any changes in the minutes?
I just want clarification.
Sure.
For December 13th minutes where we were talking about. When I was talking with Senator Walton's office, I just want to clarify in the second line where it says after they retire 20 to 25 years as veterans, to add below the rank of major or disabled. Because I just want to clarify that not everybody that retires after all those years will get their federal hiring department. And then again, in the last sentence, a veteran would have to be in over 180 days and retire below the rank of major to get veterans preference in hiring the federal agencies. But I can give you this.
All right, thank you, Mike. With those changes, any other changes? And this is for the number of minutes.
Yeah,
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion from the board?
I would move to approve the September 21st and December 13th minutes.
Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
With a great deal of thanks to Cindy for doing it. No, that's a lot of detail.
All right, moving on to financials. With that, Karen, could you
Okay,
take us through the financials, please?
so you guys should have I spoke with Karen, she said everything's tracking, so there's really not too much to discuss. Within budget for everything, everything moving forward. I don't see anything coming up that's gonna really put us out of whack. Does anybody have any questions about the financials? Yep.
On balance sheet, I just wanted to clarify that it says restricted donations bridge. I think that's a negative number. I just want to clarify what that negative number is. That we use 2,600 and that bridges donation is gone or in the hole.
Whereabouts is that, bud?
It's on the balance sheet at the bottom. Page 1.
Yeah.
Gives a negative that says restricted donation to bridge, negative 2649. And then unrestricted donation, positive 571.
Yeah, let me check with Karen on that one, because I know with the bridge, we did collect donations, but we didn't go over the amount that we collected.
I'm just trying to determine what the negative.
Sure.
You said that on February 6th, so I don't know if that's quarter to date, year to date.
Yeah, we can get clarification on.
Can be profit and loss, it would be needed if we have that total line like we do, but then where we are so far, like where we are as far as how much we've spent. How much we've budgeted and spent. What I'm trying to say.
Well, on the actual budget versus actual, okay.
Yeah, but that's what we got here. I was talking about,
So,
July 1st, February 13th, like where are we in how much we've spent.
Okay.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It would just be helpful, I think, to see if we're spending more than we're supposed to be at this point, or you know, spending less than what was budgeted.
Anything else? Right,
No,
on.
I just don't know what that means, that we spent it all, and so there's zero in there, or does it mean that we're in the hole?
Sort of the same question I'm asking together, whether it's.
So now we're gonna be, looks like most, profit, $203,830. 84 cents, right?
Right, so, so the annual, so that's what the budget was for, that's what I budgeted last year.
Right. And right now we're at.
$172, seven, we
So we're on track.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, and for me, what I pay most attention to is the budget versus actual, so that way I can see where I'm at with each line item. And so, for me, I'm a simple person. To have those two, that, you know, them right there next to each other, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, so that's what I like. Karen can do all that.
So we're right on track.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yep. Yep, no, okay.
Any other questions?
I do have a question, but not on these.
Okay.
Just as far as the, what do we call it? What do we call it? We had that overage
Mhm.
in some reserve account. Did all those checks go out for all the time?
Yes, they did.
So, Karen, now we'll move on to the FY24 budget.
Yeah, so have you guys had a chance to look at them? Did you understand the spreadsheet that I have the 4 different options?
I'll get the full year.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are three.
There are 3 options.
Yeah, 3 options.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, is that what I said?
4.
Oh, no, sorry.
I was desperately looking for 4.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so take us through.
All right, so basically, so they're all the same. The only difference is with the position, the assistant director position. So that's the big one that we have to look at. But other than that, you know, the accounting software has gone up. We use QuickBooks for that. I looked online to see what they're charging now for a renewal with $85 a month. They do, I believe that they might change in April, but I think the $85 is what we're gonna pay. I used to get them to give us the new rate every year, but they finally caught on and they're like, we can't keep doing that. So yeah, so anyway, so I put up that, dues and subscriptions, the same, we've never, gone over on that. Education, you know, $1,000, so, there are, for instance, today, had a training, in Leominster and stuff, and so the training costs $30 per person. The big thing that we do have is there is a training in the summer, which is a couple of days. So that's the big one because the state of we also have a separate training in October, but that's paid for by the state, by DBS. So. And if other things come up during that year. So then the Essex Regional Retirement. So right now, if it was just me, we got our assessment, it would be $24,080. But in this first option here, I'm trying to increase the assistant to the director hourly salary and also the number of hours that she's going to be in the office. And so with that, the assessment for the retirement system is going to go up a little. So this is an estimate because, as you can tell, there's a lot, there's a lot that goes into the Eastern Regional Retirement System and everything. So everybody's paying a percentage. I think we're like 0.005% of it or something. So this is just to give you an idea. And then the insurance did go up a little bit. I spoke with our insurance company, and there's like a new terrorism laws or something, they have like all these things that they add. So that's one, so that 775 is for our liability and the 450 is for workers' comp. And so that's, I don't really have to go too much into that. Insurance goes up a little bit each year. Shouldn't be too much. Legal and professional fees, I accepted the same at 1,600. I think that's something that was decided a couple of years ago, so I just continued using that figure. The Medicare, the district portion, so it would, if she increased in hours, the Medicare would go up a little bit. Last year it was budgeted higher. So just keep in mind that last year we budgeted so that way Kathy could have stayed on. So, but she didn't. And so that's why, they might look a little bit different if they seem a little out of whack.
We'll pay her salary.
Yeah. So with the Social Security and the Medicare, I did double check with Karen because I wanted to, and she said that they were correct. So what do we got? We got network technology. So that's, our email accounts and also, our 365 and all that stuff. So I used to have, we had like 3 emails for a while, so it was a little over last year, so should go, and I think 500 is around correct number to compute for that. We have a contract for the copier lead, so it is what it is. I kept the office expense and office supplies, I kept those the same. Same with payroll processing. We're on a 3-year contract. We use Hoppers, and so on track with that. Postage, the cost of postage has gone up a little bit, and so I increased the postage in the budget a little bit. So Social Security with this first option here, by increasing the assistant's hours, she becomes regional retirement eligible, so she doesn't pay into Social Security. We are right now at 19 hours, she pays into Social Security, or we pay into. Cell phone, so that's the cell phone that I have, web expense, it's, Civics Plus, it's for them hosting. I reduced the travel expense. And then the Ipswich health insurance, so that's on a calendar year, and, I think, I increased it a little bit, it's just one person, So the difference, we used to have two people, two retirees, that we were paying for, but one passed away, so now it's just, it's one person. Okay, so for the health insurance, people, so most places, they budget, you know, for the highest amount. And so if it was two people, so this 42,000 is for two people with family plans. Even though, you know, the assistant to the director, her husband is a Cambridge firefighter and she's gonna stay on his, and I use a single because my daughter gets hers at college.
Sure.
And I'm her mom and she's not dropping out, so. But, so do that with what you will, but that's like worst case scenario type situation. It's also, I did it at a 6% increase. And I have my insurance through the town of Newbury, and so I contacted Newbury. And she said that, you know, with Maya, they gave a range of like, I think it was like 5 and 10% or something. But she said that they said most likely it will be around 5%. Let's see, director salary, I have a contract. And so this is the part-time assistant to the director. So this 33,000 is correcting her salary from $19.48 to $25, and from 19 hours to 24 hours. And the temporary secretary salary, that's like for Cindy, you know, it's for doing minutes, and she does cover the office at times where both me and Karen have to be out.
Right.
And then the treasurer, she gets a stipend of $3,200.
Any questions from the board?
I just want to know what the thinking is to provide basically a 25% increase to the assistant to the director and an increase in hours from 19 to 24.
Yep. So I took, and then I was at the training today. So $25 is about average, from 23 to $30 an hour for administrative assistant. She's actually an assistant to the director, which I think brings her up to another level. And I also, you know, I spoke to like Newbury and Ipswich. Most of the admins in, you know, across the Commonwealth are getting between $23 and $28 an hour. So I feel like 25 is definitely fair. I mean, you could go work at Target or, you know, I mean, Amazon, and they don't have the kind of responsibility that she has. Because with that position, she has to know the Mass General law. Like, it's not, you know, she's not filing papers. She has to interface with the state on a regular basis. She audits her work, and I audit her. And she works with 6 treasurers every single month to do Chapter 115 benefits. She recertifies everyone on Chapter 115 twice a year. And the amount of documentation and chasing down people and working and being an advocate, she does an outstanding job. And also at the time that we changed the full-time position to a part-time position, I kind of feel like we were, you know, in a tight spot at that time. It had, you know, like it was a complete curveball that was thrown at us when, you know, when the town left. after we've already approved the budget, after we've already sent the budget to all the towns. So I think that it was a little bit scrambling, and I do think that it might have taken a little, minute to realize, to get, feet underneath us and to figure out what, the office needs and also what that position, deserves. And so I think that, and by having her at 24, so the salary, I mean, I think is absolutely reasonable. And also with the hours, right now she works 3 5-hour days and 1 4-hour day. Because we only have a half day on Friday. So she works Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then a half day on, and then Friday. By increasing her to 24 hours, we'll have somebody here in the office every single day for 5 hours a day. She comes in from 9:30 to 2:30. I mean, and I can't say enough good things about her. She has been outstanding, if I needed, if I had a meeting or something and she was, anytime she's able to do it, she'll adjust her schedule, like if something comes up on a Wednesday, she's like, oh, okay, I'll come in on Wednesday. I know that you have something or I need to go to something and I'll take Tuesday off. And so so this budget season that we're in now, I did put in extra money. We did ask for additional funds for, if she worked over, the 19 hours. But because she's only obligated to work 19 hours, I proposed it as, do you want the money or do you want comp time? Well, right now she's been, opting for the comp time, but it's also only $19 an hour. By saying, $25 an hour, that would be more incentive to want to,
So her salary right now is
it's $19.48.
1948.
Is there any saving when she works 19 hours
Correct.
a week? So when you bumped it up to, well, requesting 24, is there savings on the backside? Because like her insurance and social security and retirement plan is gonna totally change, correct? Because of 19 would put her in the social security arena, where 24 is gonna move her into the Essex County retirement program, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a savings there? Is there some savings there?
Right, it's the cost of the social security, so for,
The Essex retirement increases, so.
Yeah.
I don't think
It didn't offset it. so-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, that was my,
Yeah.
so it really didn't offset, so it's, okay, that was my question.
the health insurance potentially doubles from 21,000 to 42,000.
right, if the perfect storm and we, both lose insurance or something, that would be the worst case scenario.
So a couple of years ago, this board spent a lot of time talking about how many hours, for the assistant. That's my one point. And then the other point is, what exactly is the position? We voted to hire an administrative assistant, not an assistant director. So I have questions about that. We're talking about close to a 30% increase in pay. So, I mean, I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. I think she does a great job, but we have to go back to our plans and, all of our finance committees are scrutinizing, anybody that gets more than like a 3 or 4% raise. So I think we have to be really careful about that too.
You bring up what I was gonna bring up, exactly the same.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Is that I thought I want clarification. I thought we had okay for an administrative assistant for the office, not a replacement for Kevin Collins.
Right.
And now it seems that we're moving
That was my understanding, that we hired, someone for 19
19
hours.
hours as an administrative assistant.
Administrative assistant.
Right. So now we're looking at a budget that gives a raise and a title change.
Well, maybe when Kathy was here and it still has the assistant or, okay. Sorry, I misspoke, the administrative assistant. It used to be the assistant to the director.
Yeah, Kathy had a different.
Yeah,
position.
Kathy was.
Well, I mean, she did chapter 115 and so doesn't, Karen. And so, I mean, the thing is that, this office is definitely understaffed. And I think that having somebody here, 5 days a week is, is absolutely worth it to be giving, better services or more services or whatnot to the veterans and their families. And then in regards to like the finance committee or, so like I said, I went to the towns and the average like administrative position is $23 to $30 an hour. And so I think this falls within that realm, within that amount.
I know that in Georgetown right now, where just into the starting of budget season, we're looking right now at $1.3 million deficit. Knowing everybody's gonna get like a 2% increase.
Yeah,
This is more.
Riley, everybody's 2%. 2%. Plus, we're still waiting on trade.
I guess the only thing is that, how long has it been like such a lower pay of like $19 an hour? I know that 2%, and that's because pay started at this amount of money at a reasonable rate based on everything that they put together as the towns and the cities. Then you've got a job position here. I do consulting, I do this stuff all day long, and I'm telling you that $25 an hour is totally reasonable for the. I know the jobs that they do. Look, I deal with Karen, helping the veterans, and believe me, I think what that person does warrants that type of money at $25 an hour. I think where the 19 came from, I don't know what set that baseline, because if you try to do a 2% off of what probably wasn't even, or might not have been, a valid hourly pay rate, then, the reason it's jumping up so quick is because it's really what today's norm is for these type of jobs and the pay. So I guess that's why it seems so out of whack, and I don't think it really is out of my opinion.
How long Karen been listening?
It will be 2 years,
2 years, and we hired her at what rate of pay?
19.
At 9.
Just to give me a little history, because I'm like the new guy here. Was there an assistant director at one time?
Yes.
And the board,
It's just two.
to the director, and that position got,
When we were 8
Went away.
we were 8 towns. And we lost 2 towns, we lost 1 town, we lost another. So we're down to 6 towns now, and at that point, we looked at budget and everything else, and we, Kathy, who was the assistant to the director that particular time, she left, and so we had a bump that year because of the salary, correct?
Yeah, so,
just a follow-on question, if I may. What was their pay rate and hourly?
29,
$29 an hour,
yes,
and how many hours a week?
35.
35. So thus it goes along the lines of what you were talking about. I'm not trying to, I understand why the position got eliminated, But if you go back in history, you know, in reality, it's not really the 30% base. Oh.
It is.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I know that I wouldn't vote for a 25% increase. We just did a wage and benefit study in our town. And we developing a grade and step program. Well, not everybody, there's no way we can implement it all at once. So I'd be more comfortable implementing stuff over time, not just giving somebody that I can't go to them and say, oh yeah, we have employees getting 25%. When everybody in our town gets 2%.
actually, that's not a bad idea. And, you know, I mean, and you can talk about retention, which you kind of hinted about that a little bit. You know, if it's probably the kind of person that's been here long enough that you don't really want to lose to another job, you know, so I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, that's all.
But I think-
You know,
So just to your question about the history of it, so I think as Bob was starting to say, a couple of years back when Kathy Collins left, right, we also lost those two towns, so we didn't feel that we needed an assistant director. So this was an administrative assistant position, so that's why the salary dropped the way that it did, because you know, it's a big difference, at least to me, between an assistant director and an administrative assistant. Not to say that she doesn't deserve more money, but I think this is a little bit higher than as a jump at this point. I think that, and we're adding hours to program. So we're adding, you know, she goes over the threshold into the benefits too. So I think we just have to be really careful about everything that we're adding here or proposing to add.
Yeah,
I just like to think about the way things are in employment outside right now. Attention, trying to hold people and not lose them with the different salaries increases out there. But again, we have a problem with each one of our towns. You said is select people. And we know what our budgets are in the towns and what's coming down the road. Inflation's gonna kill it. We just look at all the different, you know, price of gasoline. I just want to some of the plumbers. Just take my breath away. But we also we got to run this office, so we're gonna. Well, we got to rock a hard place here. So,
Well, you have a choice, you can increase the salary and decrease the hours.
Yeah.
Kind of keep the hours with that and increase the salary. They have 3 different options.
well, you said that she's actually, we're doing that now, right, with the comp versus money, or it's not.
to run an office with 6 counties and to not have an admin here every day is like, I mean, I think it's a disservice to the veterans. That means I can't leave the office. And everything I do office hours in each of the towns. And so if I have to be out, like the office has to be closed. And what if, you know what I mean? Like there's situations that come up. Yeah, I can talk to Karen and be like, oh, I know that I'm gonna be, you know, in West Newbury on this day. But the thing that you don't know is, you know, when you get a call of a veteran in crisis, I spent 3 days trying to help this veteran get into, and so to have nobody in the office or to, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me to not have somebody in the office every single day, especially when you have 6 towns.
Have you seen an upswing from, say, the last 2 years in crisis with veterans?
Okay.
Can you give us a percentage?
percentage. I mean,
on numbers, you know, I know there's mental health issues,
Yeah.
okay? Have we seen, has this impacted our office?
oh yeah. Everything, like I said, I mean, I don't know if we should talk offline, but, you know.
I don't want names.
Yeah, no, I
So
know,
we
and
have-
everything,
we
but
have-
you need some very specific questions or, you know, but, you know,
But I think there's also more than just the prices. I mean, I think
it's
there are
just
more
having somebody in
people
the office.
that are actually applying for benefits than
Yeah.
ever did. I was helping my neighbor's father who's in Newburyport, living assistance. He's 80 years old and he doesn't even have his VA benefits. And so we're helping him get all that stuff. And that's a lot of work. And I'm like, he's 80 years old and he got out
How
winning.
many-
So that's what I think is
What
happening.
is the increase? Sorry, Brian. What is the increase in the number of VA veterans with VA benefits?
So, and I gave you guys before, I don't know if I should print it out for every meeting or whatnot, but the percentage of veterans receiving benefits. So nationwide, it's 19.5 for service-connected disability. Here in this district, we are at 26
26%.
and everything, and it's,
Yeah, that was high. I thought it was high, yeah.
yeah, and everything is. It's outrageous, yeah,
No,
I mean, because that's just, you know, that's just the people who got awarded the benefit. Not how many, you know, applications and stuff. And each application isn't a one-time you sit down, I mean, and so an application for aid and attendance is literally, I'm not like being dramatic, it's 50 pages of paperwork. I actually was on the phone, I can go on and on, but you know, at the end of the day, the veterans in the district deserve to have somebody answering the phone or having the door, having somebody, you know, being able to walk and having
I
the
mean,
door open.
Congress has expanded, especially in the last decade, benefits for veterans because of burn pits, the Camp Lejeune water problem, the number of veterans coming forward with Agent Orange problems. And give me some others, because I went through the list, I was just amazed.
Yeah, I mean, with the
Congress
PAC,
has expanded this. And rightfully so, because there's veterans out there suffering. I bumped into a veteran the other day, nothing about the camp, it was a Marine veteran, nothing about Camp Lejeune and the water problem.
I know, well, and then, you know, I mean, out of all the presumptives that they added, one of them for Vietnam vets is hypertension.
Yeah,
Okay, how many people in their 70s have hypertension? You know, and so now I'm getting, right, and so now,
60.
exactly, and stuff, and so now all those plans are coming too. It's not to mention just paying attention to when you're talking with people, and how much training and, you know, the breadth of knowledge you have to obtain. You know, for my position, I just helped this woman, she wanted to apply for chapter 115. And I found out that she had, CIC, her husband, passed away from service-connected disability. And they said, oh, you know, you're getting your annuity. What's the annuity? I don't know what that is. And so I put in the annuity as far back as they're allowed to go. She got $34,000. She's not on chapter 115 because she just got $34,000. But going back to, you know, to Karen and the salary and the hours and stuff, because I mean, I can talk veteran stuff all day long. The training that goes into chapter 115 is so involved and so time consuming, the learning curve for it isn't months. It is years, and the Mass General law, it changes, and so to have to bring somebody on and to go through all that training, it's I would be tied to the chair again, just trying to train somebody up, doing chapter 115. It doesn't make sense.
Well, my feeling is, I think we should leave Bridget to salary up. But the hours, I don't see we can bring her into full time.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
One of the things that we wanted was to have an administrative assistant that would be here during office hours.
Mhm.
So the phone would not go unattended. So I don't know. And I'm not rushing about how many hours a day Karen's out of the office. And here, so I don't know how often it happens.
Well, that was.
Training for certain, but
That's right, but that was the thing that when we first brought Kathy on, was to, the office was vacant here. There wasn't anybody answering the phones, and then, so Karen needed help, so we're at a point now, in 2 years.
yeah, see, but we have in the budget here. A temporary secretary too. $2,000.
That's me.
Okay.
Like chatting. I take minutes, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a stipend.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's right, it just says temporary secretary, so it says one secretary.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I may. Okay, option one, we, we obviously know the difference. Option two and option three, is none of this in any of those? I don't mean to jump ahead, but like the raise and the increase in hours, is that, none of that is in option 2 or 3 at all?
No, so option 2, yeah, so that's option 1. Option 2
I
is,
know, I see that.
yeah, is adjusting her salary to $25, but keeping her number of hours to 19.
Okay,
And then option 3,
is not doing anything.
it's not doing anything, it's not covering.
2%.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. I like your idea about the tier, when we talk about, retainership of help. I like your idea about the tier process where, I don't know, does she have a contract or is she? So there's no, I don't know how we can put it in writing or how we could, and I don't wanna say ensure that person that every year they're gonna get so much of a raise. But it might be more palatable to the towns if we do it in a step process versus.
Well, I think everything should be step process, then give a grade and then steps, so going out, excellent.
So she's been here 2 years,
Yeah.
and she has not received a raise in 2 years.
No, she got more small. Yeah. Yeah, it's she went from $19 to $19.48.
I'm sorry,
She went from $19 to $19.48.
well, this board feel.
I think it's very reasonable, and I know it just sounds, the 25%, everybody's hooked on that, but I don't think her pay to start to begin with was even, a fair amount, and then also, she's taken on so many more responsibilities from an individual that was getting $29 an hour, And I guarantee,
That person was a certified VSO too.
No, she wasn't.
Kathy Collins wasn't,
No,
she told me.
she's.
but I guess when we say that a certified VSO, I know there's a lot that goes into that, but I guess because I've had dealings with Karen's office and from people high up in the VA that have worked with her to help veterans, I know what goes on with that. I know what she does, and I know it. I don't really know her. I don't really know her, but I know what she has done and what she does. And dealing with VSOs, her service is accolades above many of the VSOs that I've worked with. So I think we get a lot out of that individual. Because believe me, there's a lot of them out there that probably shouldn't be doing it, but anyways, I just think it's a reasonable rate. That's just me. I really do, and I think that, you know, this is supposed to be about veterans, and, you know, I make it about veterans. I pay a lot of taxes where I come from in West Newbury, even though I get a little rebate because of my disability, but I'll tell you what, I'm not quite sure what it always goes for, but I would want it as a taxpayer of my town to go to something like this here to get the services that these individuals need. And I don't think we should, you know, short step, you know, the number of hours for a reasonable salary per hour. That's me. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's her, because she also does case management, each of the chapter 115 people, you know what I mean? Most of them are, actually, I think all of them are, but they're elderly, they're seniors, some of them shouldn't be living at home, you know, living at home. And, you know, what she does, she's relentless in trying to help them get their paperwork, or, you know, she goes and picks it up for them, because otherwise they would be off benefits, and they really need the benefits in order to survive. So it's administrative, it's case management, and I mean, I don't know, it's,
Right now, she's making 370.
and if you go to the towns and say, you know,
She's making $370.12 for 19 hours. At $19.28. At 25, she would be up to $475. That would be 19 hours. So you're gonna increase in approximately $105 a week.
You mentioned about the 25 hours and having somebody here 5 days a week.
Well, what, I'm talking 19 hours, because we move her above 19 hours, then she goes into the pension fund, she becomes a full-time employee, basically. So,
But the manning the phone issue, I'm just wondering, you know,
well,
having somebody in the office is, I just want to know, like, what's the goal here? You know, like, do we want to put somebody being able to answer the phone
Yeah.
when she's not here, or no?
or do you want,
We don't,
For a minute, how it's been working the last couple of years after 19 hours, but like, how does it work when nobody's in the office? What are the hours that nobody's in the office?
so,
And, you know, when you're out, you know, let's maybe talk about that for a minute so we can get a grasp on how many hours we're talking about that, you know, there's really nobody here, and what happens during that time if somebody calls. I mean, is there call routed to your cell phone somehow, or, you know, I mean, there's coverage, a body in the office, there's also coverage, you know, if the phone is directed to Karen's cell phone in the event of an emergency or something. So I guess that's what I'd like to hear about as we try to justify.
the veterans receiving the services.
Yeah.
look, I know what it was like in Plymouth, Mass, trying to get in touch with my VSO to get my benefits processed. And if it hadn't been for a friend of mine, I don't know what would have happened. I would have had a congressional, because there was no, she was never there, and she only served one town in Plymouth. There was no assistance. It's the most heart-wrenching stuff you can go through. So for me, I've lived on that other end. And I just know that's why I guess I have no issues supporting this here, because I know what they do, and I know how painful this can be as a veteran when you're not getting the service you should get. And that's what this whole office is all about.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing that. I just want to get, because we went through this process a couple years ago and we made those decisions about coverage and all that. So I just want to know, how does it work? What's changed in those couple of years? And, just so that we can get a handle on it.
Again, are the veterans getting the services they require? Do we need, is this office being covered when Karen is not here? Do we need to have the other Karen, Karen two, Karen one, Karen two? Now, do we need to expand her hours in order to cover this office? And what will it cost us to do that?
Yeah, and I have another thought, along those lines on, maybe afternoon hours, is it something that we can bring in maybe a high school person to do, a little bit of coverage and, so obviously the high school person or even college really wouldn't be doing the chapter 115 and that type of stuff. But there would be somebody here to answer the phone and maybe start to get an idea of what a veterans office does.
I personally, Linda, I think that's a great idea. The only thing I'm reluctant is because of the sense of nature of what goes on.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, but there's things that go on here, okay? And I'm talking about health issues of veterans. Okay,
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
so that's my
Making
view.
something
I sure I am.
I-
I say the same, just as the nature of the potential nature of the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Other than just a general call.
You need somebody who's mature, you need somebody who's been around.
Yeah.
Who understands, the veteran. It's not, this is a service, it's very different from other services.
Yeah.
So
So,
here's what I struggle. One is, I have no idea how many crisis calls come into the office a day, a month, a year. I have no idea. There's really no way to predict that, unless you take records of it.
well,
So you know, if you look at
I talk to Karen regularly. And as as the chair, and as I talk with her, I can't go into detail. Okay, she doesn't with me, but she'll tell me there's a crisis with a veteran. And it's taking up quite a bit of her time. So,
well, that's not what I was alluding to, just on sheer numbers. What type of calls are coming to the office? Once short of having well, in my old telephone terms, automatic call distribution scheme where you can see how many calls come in, you can't tell.
right,
Many calls come in. I have no idea, so I don't know all the different reasons, Karen does her job, she's talking about, she goes to the town and whatever else she does outside of that and training. But I don't know if this every day is specified a certain amount of hours out of the office that we need to have somebody answer the phone. I just, I don't know that, it's hard to make a determination of how we staff it from. And, I just look at it and say, if there's not gonna be anybody here, the phone system should have the capability to forward to Karen's cell
how many cases have we gone up? in the past 2 years?
For, I mean, for, I can. I mean, for VA cases, I can.
Yeah.
Go in and tell you, I mean. But, I mean, but what I also can tell you is what the state says that we should be staffed at. And if we were staffed at what the state recommendation is, you'll be hiring a few more people. Because the state gives a outline of a minimum, what's it called, minimum staffing guidelines.
And that's by the number of towns or by the
By the
population?
population, so if you know, so we have a population of 43,000.
The state gives a
No,
recommendation.
so, okay,
Is that at the 6 towns that we got?
that's at the 6 towns, so that's not.
3,000,
um,
times 40,000.
43,000 people.
So, all right. So for, should, can I repeat something? I'll just figure it out. So for, it should be one full-time director of ESO, a full-time agent, a full-time clerical staff. And that's with just one town, we have 6 towns. That means there's, you know what I mean, like, even for her doing her job, she interfaces with 6 different treasurers. So every month, so you take somebody who has the same population as we do, or the same number of cases. They only have one treasurer for chapter 150. She has 6. She has, you know.
Yeah, and we've gone through this with Kathy, we've been through this for years. She has to interface with each one of these treasurers, with each one of these cases.
With the, yeah, and everything, with the, you know, obtaining all the checks from all the different towns, following their check schedule, you know what I mean, like, it's a lot more involved than if we took the, you know, the same amount of people and say we're Salem or Peabody or, you know, whatever other town. We only have one town to deal with, we have to deal with 6. So, I mean, it's kind of a different animal, and it's
So,
also a different animal when it comes to outreach. So for VSO, you know, so you take whatever, you know, X town, they wanna do outreach, they go to a COA, I go to 6 COAs.
So what does the board want to do? We want to extend her hours for coverage, or keep it at 19 and raise her pay?
If it were me, it would raise her pay and extend the hours.
What would be a recommendation for hours?
I think the 24 hours meant it wasn't a total of 5 hours per day, but yes, it was 5 hours per day. But you on Fridays you close earlier, so that's where the 4 hours come from. So it gives it 5 days of coverage. I think 5 days of coverage is extremely reasonable. And I think the other part is that when you work on a case, I think if we ever try to ask and say, how long is it per case that you work on? It varies and it differs. What are the disabilities? What are we actually going for? Are we going just to get them their VA? Or are we going to get compensation? So there's so much involved that I just believe that it's reasonable.
Well, it'd be nice if the towns could just increase everybody's pay in such a dramatic fashion that are unpaid. And there's no way I would vote for 3. I think they should, number 1. Number 3, well, that's hard line. I'd be more in line with keeping her hours and getting her a raise. more to this option two. I could feel a conscious.
So you're saying, again, tell me the number
Keep
of
her
hours,
19 hours. But raise her pay.
raise your pay.
I think in option two, the raise her pay $2,000.
So that would be how much?
What would be at 25?
The 25 based
At
on,
25, it raises to 25,
based on the fact that she's more than an administrative assistant.
Based on the options that are presented. I came on.
so we raise it to 20, raise it to 25, but keep her at 19 hours.
But I guess my other question is that if the budget for 2023 was 62,000, right? That was the budget? But actually, I'm just looking at option one. Option one, it was 62,000. But in option one for FY 24, it drops to 56,000. Right?
Sorry.
I just want to make sure I read that.
Oh,
paper.
it's on the expenses.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm just looking at feel the expense.
Yeah.
Okay. I apologize. Okay, so
This is all public record, right? Yeah. These three options, because I didn't want to say this out loud.
We're a public meeting also.
Yeah, I understand that. Option one, your total expenses is 227,000 and some change, right? Option two, your total expenses is 193,600 and some change. And then option three is 191 and 200, 191,164 and some change. So if the request coming from you is about a $35,000 increase in your budget. Is that fair to say?
Because when you go over the number of hours over 19, then you're bringing in.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying overall. Overall, the budget, $35,000 increase.
Well, it would be a little bit different if we keep her at 19, okay? And then if we keep her at 19, okay? And brought her up to $25 an hour,
I didn't.
that's roughly about $5,000 a year increase.
I'm sorry, what, say that again?
If we bring her up from 19, if we keep her at 19 and bring her from 1948, okay, up to $25 an hour, that would be about a $5,000 increase. Because I figure it's $105 or something. So $100 a week.
See, the reason is that, okay, so we'd be probably in agreement, $25 an hour. And not raising the amount of hours.
Not on hours because
This is more of an increment.
she's not a full-time employee, and that's the whole idea of we hired her as a part-time employee.
Right.
Okay, so it wouldn't involve pension, it wouldn't involve, what else? Health insurance. So,
What I would like to suggest is, I think based on her job duties, as we talked about tonight, I'm okay going. As far as increasing her hours, I think that that's a discussion that, because we're just hearing about this tonight for the first time, at least for me. You know, the need to do this and all that.
I forget what the job description was.
So my suggestion is that because she's doing all of these specialized functions at this point, I'm okay with that. And during the ensuing year, we evaluate the position. And so that next year, when we're having this discussion, we can be talking about maybe a title change, you know, and maybe more hours, that type of thing, but I
Or it
think,
could just be a change in the responsibilities that she was hired.
well, that's what I'm saying, we reevaluate the position with maybe an eye toward, you know, we'll examine the hours in the office and what's really needed and, you know, how the office functions. And
I mean, I think
I'm talking about increasing hours, that's what I'm
Right,
talking about.
yeah, I mean, I think that, you know,
And that's just a suggestion, that, you know, we
Now,
make it a priority to
the
evaluate.
budgets that we have before us tonight, options 1, 2, and 3. The number one budget, which is $227,609.68. Okay, that is a number of hour increase for, right?
That's both,
that's both,
that's both the hours and the
the
pay.
thing is that, I mean, at the end of the,
And that's hours,
And the hourly increase.
hourly increase,
Option one is both the hours and the pay.
hours and the pay.
Yeah. Yes. I don't see one, but do we have or would we consider having an overtime line item? That if the assistant had to work, that it would be overtime. She has, they have everything.
Isn't that an option too?
yeah, so,
To overtime.
so when she's hired for 19 hours, that only means that she's required to be here for 19 hours.
19 hours.
And
that's right.
so, when I need more,
1 second, sorry.
Yes, thank you. I rescind that question.
so when I need, you know, so when something comes up and I need, you know, outside of her hours or whatnot, I can't force her to stay because
Right.
she's 19 hours.
She's 19 hours, that's it.
And
She's
so
employed.
by having her at the 24 hours, that means that she is obligated to be here every single day. And I also think that for our veterans, that having, I mean, I think she should be full-time, you know? But I think, you know, 24 hours, having somebody here 5 days a week. And I guess, so I'm just, so is it the $25 an hour that's the problem, or is it the 24?
When we put her in
Hours.
24 hours, she now leaves she leaves being a part-time employee. She goes to a full-time employee,
Mhm.
and the benefits kick in, retirement. Okay, now, going back to when we hired her 2 years ago, okay? And I guess the board didn't look down the road and decide at that particular time what we wanted and what we needed.
Well, we did because we developed a.
We said, because we just lost Kathy. And we said, where are we going? I shouldn't say what the board did, but the board just said, okay, we need somebody in the office here. Let's get a part-time employee at 19 hours. And we didn't think of anything else. Now Karen is telling us, things have changed in the office.
So, but along that same timeline, we lost the 2 other towns, so we weren't really sure. We needed time to evaluate, and we haven't really discussed this until now.
Right.
And that's why I'm suggesting that, I think most of us are okay with the pay increase, because, you know, we're,
I just, first, I hate to use the word, but I just think it would be fiscally irresponsible to increase somebody's pay by 25 or more %. When we represent our towns, they're not gonna get more than 2%. So how do I justify that?
Well, so it increased by $23,000. Didn't we just give a bunch of money back to the towns?
Well, it doesn't mean we have the right to go back and grab it.
Well, but I think at the end of the day, we're here to represent the veterans, and if this 23,000 is what is needed to take care of the veterans in our community, then that's the justification in my eyes. This is the justification in my eyes. The problem with me is I take this, it's a little personal for me.
Well,
I'm a taxpayer in the town where I pay up the wazoo. We have no children that go to the school. We have nothing. I see what my town spends and I know what they do. And for me as a taxpayer, I have no problem as long as I know where it's going to, and it's going to.
Okay, all right, may I, Mr. Chair?
Sure, certainly.
Let me ask you. You're sitting in your role as a member of the select board. And you have employees, oh, gee, we gotta bring them up to this to get them where they are. What do you think the taxpayers are gonna say? They're not gonna like it, especially other employees that are not gonna get it. Because everybody thinks it's underpaid.
I do not dispute that whatsoever, but this here is not like job at the town hall or working for the town and that type of job position. This here is, it's a little more unique. And you have multiple people working here, and again, things, the landscape changed, but nothing, but it's finally looking to be readjusted. Landscape.
The thing that I'm missing is there's really no optics, no metrics for the office. I have no idea.
That's kind of where I was going.
I have no idea.
And I think we're gonna require a meeting, in March, okay, where we're going, discussion is going tonight. And I would like to have Mike here too, from Essex,
Yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to sit and talk
Yeah.
about this. The budget, I wanted to do the budget and try to get the full towns, but we can't do this tonight because this is something here, what we're talking about. So,
Well,
because if we go 19 hours, at $25 an hour, okay, that's gonna change the budget, correct?
No, so, yeah, and I mean, and also, I understand, you know, that looking at that one item, but I mean, if you look at the town assessment, I mean.
That would
I think
change the town assessment.
So, yeah, so this is what the town assessment would look like at you know, the $25 and 24 hours.
At 24 hours, but we have one for 19 hours and
Yes.
25.
Yeah, so
Which budget is
the
that?
options coincide, so the line item budget, 1, 2, and 3 has a town assessment, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it has,
So for option number 1, you
Yeah.
know,
now with option number 1, that's the
So-
full vote, that's the
Yeah.
24 hours at $25 an hour.
Essex would go up $2,061. Georgetown would go up $4,791. Ipswich would go to $7,416. And, you know, I did speak with Sarah and because
And
she called,
that, again, that's the 24 hours
yeah,
at $25 an hour. Take
so,
us through option 2 now.
so option 2, the town assessments. The town assessments would go there.
That's at what? Okay,
That's at $25 at 19 hours.
25 at 19 hours.
Yeah.
That would be assessment 2. Okay. An assessment 3,
It's $19 at 2% increase.
$19 of 2% increase.
That's right.
It's this cheap. Yeah. I don't know, I'd see option 1. Oh, never mind, that's population. I'm like, I don't see a change at all, but that's number of people, all right, sorry.
I mean, if you look at the bottom line.
Yeah, and if I may, real quick, the number that, this number here that you were talking about, that's only brings you up to fiscal year 23. When you get up to fiscal year 24, which I think is what we're voting on, isn't that correct? It's actually about a $55,000 increase from fiscal year 22. That's a pretty substantial increase.
That's an option one.
That's option one, fiscal year 22, the expenses was like 186, 186,000. And what we're voting on, the total expenses are gonna go to 200. A big chunk of change over a 3-year period.
Mr. Chair, your point, do we, I think possibly we need to have a full board present, so we have a representative.
I think we can, my opinion. I'm just one of 6 votes here, or 5 votes right now, but I think option 2 right now. That would be $19, that would be 19 hours, $25 increase, okay. I'm looking at retention, retainer. Then let's look going into next year. Say, what is the job? Is this, the job going forward? What's the matrix that's calling for an expansion of hours and everything else? I think a couple of board members need to, to be the ones to bring the report back to the board. How do you feel about that?
And that goes to what I was suggesting that we do it.
Right.
Research this, see.
Are we talking, we're gonna table this until March? Is that what?
No, I would like to get this out to the towns, okay? Because everybody's trying to figure out their budget. And I think we were a little bit late last year trying to get it out.
Oh, some of the towns have already done the budget, or some of the towns contact me. And, they ask me for a number to plug in, because, we're usually the kind of the last piece of the pie.
Right.
And so a couple of towns have already contacted me and everything, so I give them numbers to plug in.
So that's my feeling, is trying to get this out as possible to the towns so they can figure their budgets in. But it's not a lot, but the way, sitting there doing the budget, just a couple $1,000, we're looking at. Especially, with a regional scope, it's a little bit different for us. You're regional, right? Gotcha.
We are.
We're waiting to find out how they're gonna vote for the new school year. Which would impact that kind of like $1 million.
So I mean, being regional, it's a little bit different for us because we really don't know the picture. And plus, we don't have the governor's figures about transportation. We're always waiting on that, so.
Are we gonna vote on each one of these individually?
Well, I talked about option 2, okay? Now, if you can speak how you feel, what jobs you wish, so. I'm just gonna vote, so.
Well,
I would like a motion that we vote on option 1. We see how the vote is, then we vote on option 2. We see what the vote is, and we vote on option 3. I'd like the motion that's the methodology that we use.
We could do that.
I think that's probably.
Okay, wait, let's write down option 1, okay? Do I have a motion?
I motion that we vote to approve the option 1 budget for fiscal year 24. A second?
All right, hearing no second, go to option 2.
I want to throw one thought out there before we go to option
Sure.
2. And kind of not a steps and grade expert, I don't know how that goes, but given the size of the increase, I just wonder if there's any appetite for maybe considering increasing the pay. I mean, we're looking at, was it 28% increase?
Roughly.
If we
So
were,
one person.
if we were to consider 10% increase for this year. Reevaluate the position during the course of the year and look at maybe 10% next year to bring it up to.
That's gonna change the numbers on the budget. So that means. It's not,
Other ideas.
No, that's fine. We have some type of metrics to work on to
Yeah.
justify that, but we have no metrics at all.
That's kind of why I was
Yeah.
suggesting, because I do understand, $19.48. It is low, I get that. So I was trying to think, bring it up pay wise, maybe not to the full 25, but let's during the course of the year, like I said, evaluate everything.
Per job.
Especially the hours, the needs of the office.
her job title is administrative assistant.
Yeah. So that was just,
And I think we're on steps, I know in our town, I think every town is this in the boat, fair equality of job positions and everything else. So I think where we're going tonight, at the table is come back. And come back to this next month, and I think the 15th of March. Calendars.
I'll make myself right.
I stopped jury duty at 8:30 in the morning that day. So, you never know.
You won't be surprised.
But that's the only thing with my calendar right now is.
You tell me once.
Karen, in the meantime, can you get the number of cases increased over the last 2 years? Okay. And the number of 115s. So that we can discuss that.
We don't have a way to do it, other than somebody making hash marks, but at some point, I'd like to know how many calls on average we're receiving a month, a year.
I don't think we have any kind of,
We don't have any way to measure that,
you know,
and I don't want somebody to sit there and hash.
You know, what we do have measured is 26% of our veterans are getting services, which is 7% higher than the rest of the nation. That's one metric.
and as Karen brought up, what the state recommends from the office. Okay,
You know, the FBI says that, the FBI studies say that we should have 15 police officers, we have 12.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, I trust that. I am holding March 14th, 15th, and 16th for a tri-board meeting.
14th,
14th, 15th, 16th.
what about the 15th?
We're holding those 3 nights, we don't know yet,
Obviously, then.
which. That's
All right, let's go back to the calendar again.
So I could probably do the 7th, 8th, 9th,
Can't do that.
or the,
I'm not available then. How about the 22nd?
Yep.
22nd.
We could do St. Patrick's Day and come in.
Friday night.
Yeah, can we get a
Second.
22nd, all right? In the meantime, get a hold of, Mike.
yeah,
Get him.
that's a good thing.
And so on the agenda will be the discussion of the administrative assistant. Okay. John, let's see where it stands compared to other towns. Okay, so let's go back and look at our own towns. And then what our administrative assistant is getting in the step system. Also, do we want to go to
But I think
a
too-
full-time position, or we want to remain at a part-time?
I think too, a lot of these administrative positions are union positions. Right, so that would make a difference.
Yeah, that's gonna make, that's a whole industry.
So those are, shared contracts and all that, so.
Well, that's, I mean, we had Kathy in here, she was 35 hours a week, so this job is going to be a little bit different. Okay, but we have to cover the office, so. And this is a different animal than.
Right, and that's what we were talking about earlier, that,
This is not like, this is not like.
responsibilities are.
It's against the town positions, it would be administrative position, completely, not completely different, but,
Well,
somewhat.
that's why I brought that up, about those, different positions. We're gonna look at our town and what our town is paying, we also have to look at the fact that this is a very different type of job. So we might not be comparing our staff, maybe what we should do is look at what other veterans offices.
Well, that's gonna be,
Paying their administrative assistant, right? And especially on a district level like that.
well, that would, we have to look at, I don't know if this is another district, like ours.
Does Adam have in his office, does he have other staff? Gloucester, they cover Gloucester.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of stuff he has. I think he might have a full-time or part-time.
Like in George, they did not George. Topsail, they have just one guy.
Well, yeah,
Right?
that I cover a lot.
And, well, yeah, so it's just, it's all different. I know that Donnie Jarvis was gonna go, I think he's the one in Charlotte, right?
No, he has a full-time admin.
Just
For one
referring to
account.
that.
Everything transferred, had just hired a part-time admin, 24 hours and $27.
Okay. Let's table all this, okay? We all got jobs to do on this to come back in front of 27.
So you want us to bring the salary regions of administrative assistant within our towns?
I would,
I just don't think that those would compare.
That's all public, that's all public record. anyway.
Yeah. I think we're find out what other VSOs have, like the population of the two examples that you just gave in Gloucester, and what they have in their office and what they're.
well, even a town, city like,
I mean,
I just want to compare accurately,
when you
Yeah.
86, right, 86,000.
Mhm.
How many people we have?
40.
40. So that would roughly be like city,
But it's also, again, 6 times it's more work than just,
yeah, 6 times more work, I mean.
like everything you do is times.
Every month. you get-
That's what I was saying, like,
so,
Every
working
hour,
with-
every
working-
month, every
working
time,
with one treasure.
yeah.
Right. But at the same time, you're working with X amount of more budgets.
Right.
That kind of washes.
And what do we want to do? Do we want to expand? The
Well, I think that's
office
something that the next year. It won't be anywhere that will or anything. Well, this is in my mind, options, which one.
Okay. So let's take it back. We'll come back to
Right,
that.
so, again, just to clarify, Bob, what the one,
It might be what your administrative systems. Oh.
Like we have people that work full time, but they're two part-time. One I know she makes 19 bucks and change an hour. And one job I don't know what she makes in the other.
Karen, you get, and if you can get, administrative assistant in another town.
Yep.
Okay, not administrative assistant. In a, assistant to a BSO.
Yep.
Okay. And roughly the same, cost structure. We're one of the largest now,
Yeah, I mean, Western Mass has a big one, and then, the Cape has a really big
right,
one.
but we're one of the largest.
Yeah, and I mean, Hamilton kind of, they weren't the big chunk
No,
of
they weren't.
the time we spent, you know what I mean, the other towns like you guys. So even though they left, it's not equal to the amount of time that I put into each of the towns. Stuff like that, so I mean. So, okay, yeah, I'll do whatever,
Yeah.
whatever's necessary.
All right, we'll come back to address this. And Karen will be back, Karen free. Okay, I have nothing on the agenda before. What this report?
Okay. All right, so, okay, so, one of the things, and I sent you guys the flyer, so I'm on the vision committee for the Merrimack Valley Veterans Collaborative, which is something that, we started along with, it used to be called Merrimack, Elder Services, now they're age span. And so, so me and outreach director, outreach person over there, we started, to do this collaborative. And there's a couple other people on the, on this vision committee. And so we're gonna be hosting, we try to move it around because the people who attend are from all over the Merrimack Valley. And so we're hosting, this meeting, and it's gonna be on suicide awareness, and it's gonna be at the Georgetown COA. I won a couple of appeals. I worked with Seth Malton's office to get one of them. And he was he was so happy. And so, so even like the slam dunk cases. So this guy, he was a jet engine mechanic. He put in for a hearing loss, went to a contractor. They said, oh, you have hearing loss, but it's not related to your military service. So he got denied. So now, so that's just one case, but wait, he gets denied, so it's an appeal. So I fill out the appeal work with him, and it's taking too long. So I call Moulton's office, and so Seth Moulton, you spoke with him, Stephen Vaughn.
Yep.
So now he's involved, and so me and Stephen are talking back and forth, and the veterans. So finally it got approved, and he got back pay for a couple of months. But we always say like the hearing ones are supposed to be the slam dunks, those are the easy ones. And it's not always the case.
What, era veteran?
He was, post-Vietnam. So it's Cold War. Another case that I was working on, again, some of these things do become so time consuming. And I feel like I have to take it to the ninth degree or whatever. But it got denied, because it's a very rare disease that he has. And the government actually doing a research study on this disease and military personnel, because like, Agent Orange or Camp Lejeune and stuff, they think that there might be a link, but because it's so rare, they don't have as many test subjects. But also the fact that they're doing the research shows that they have some sort of reasoning that they think there is a link between the two. So I'm trying to help him with an appeal, and I actually contacted, so it's the National Institute for Research, Environmental Research or something, right? And I spoke to one of the research scientists, so to see if he would write a letter saying, whether or not it's more probable than not that it might be military related. So we'll see what happens. But the thing is with these, is that not only, because I mean, if he gets it, it's going to be 100% because the guy is completely homebound. But we also have to take care of the family. So now if he gets this 100% rating, when he dies, his wife gets DIC, so she'll continue to receive benefits. She'll also get CHMPA and $2,000 annuity and stuff like that. So he's like, I know I'm dying. He's like, and so you're not just fighting for the dying veteran, you're fighting for their family too and stuff. And especially, the family that's taking care of the veteran because of their military service that they are sick to begin with. So I presented at the Ipswich Board of Selectmen meeting. I feel like that went well.
It's not very well.
Oh, yeah. And I also want to put out to you guys, I'm more than happy to come to any Board of Selectmen meeting, FinCom. I'm going to present at FinCom at the end of this month for Ipswich. Ipswich is very good. Like, they tap me all the time, like, hey, like, finance called me to say, oh, what should we plug in for a number for this year? They contact me, oh, will you present at the Board of Selectmen meeting? Will you attend, FinCom and stuff? And so I would love to do that with the other towns too and everything. Some of the towns have reached out to me, like West Newbury. Angus asked me, oh, what should I put in for a number for, the budget and stuff like that. And I love the opportunity to talk about veterans or what we do here. So please invite. I'll be more than happy to go. I'm also working with a rally Memorial Day committee stuff. So I went meetings with them. We went to Pine Grove School. I met with the principal there to get the kids involved with the Memorial Day parade. Also, connected the committee in regards to an MC for the event.
I'm sorry, Karen, did you get invited to the luncheon next week?
Yes.
Okay.
I spoke with the rally committee, still trying to move forward with the Purple Heart community. And the other thing that is going to be coming down the pike is so we just found out, I found out about it. I didn't know about this before, but they had a certificate of recognition for people who serve for Cold War veterans. So they're saying Cold War, anything from 1945 to 1991, which is when Desert Storm and Shield started. And I would like to do a ceremony. So I'm going to spend the next, they say that to get the certificates, because it's signed by the secretary, Department of Defense. Spend, you know, months trying to advertise and stuff, being like, if you serve between these, you know, this and this, like, contact our office, you know, drop off your DD 214. If you don't have it, I can find you. So it like does a lot of things, which is gets them in touch with the office. You know, people who might have not previously, you know, been in touch with the office. So it's outreach. And also, I think a lot of times World War veterans, they kind of get forgotten about because they're not eligible for VFW or their P time. And so I think a lot of people are like, always think like, oh, combat veterans or, you know, serving during those times of war. And those who serve peacetime, I mean, they're just as much a veteran as anyone else. And a lot of times they don't see their service as, you know, as impactful as, you know, a wartime veteran. And so when I found out about this, I was like, you know, we got to do something. We need to, you know, recognize them. I mean, a certificate of recognition can go such a long way for somebody being proud of their service.
Congress never got off the river, to buy the veterans between 1945 and with the ribbon
91.
in 91. They never.
Congress passed the Legion Act, which basically states we've been at war since 1940. So this eliminated any gaps for membership in the American Legion. So that any veteran, and the same way with the ambulance.
But there were so many veterans that, I mean, it was the biggest war we fought in history, the Cold War, most expensive war, and nobody comes out and says that. It's, you know, it's a shame that.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, that's exactly why they did that. It's because, you know, they weren't getting recognized. They weren't, you know, because I mean, I know people who served in the 80s and, you know, prior to this, they tried to go join a Legion and they're like, no, you can't.
Right.
And that's just, I mean, that's very unfortunate. So, so this is something that I'd like to do, something I feel passionate about. I actually at the training today, I saw General Keith when we were talking. I told him that this is something I wanted to do and be the center and to, you know, to give out these awards. And he said, you know, he was like, absolutely, give me a date and time. So that's something that we'll do.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you have email each of our towns? Do you have a email addresses for the veterans that have either worked with you or may not even have contacted this office out to the veterans in each of our towns? I mean, how many do you have? I just wrote down in my notes about, you know, the Cold War program, which I love that myself. And so what you actually asked us was to have anybody in our town that served during the Cold War to contact this office.
Correct.
And they can do it via an email. That would help you collect email addresses in each of our towns. Because I know that my town administrator has requested for this office to submit maybe annually just a Christmas card or something to each of our vets to, you know, via email so that they know that they're still here, they're still alive, they still need help.
Right.
You know, so I think that that's a really good way to start.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. So anytime, so we started an email list, and so that's something whenever, you know, we get in contact, because I sent a letter out to all the veterans in all the towns and stuff. And so, you know, in that, you know, I asked them to contact the office and, you know, provide email addresses. And then when I help people with claims, I get their email addresses and stuff. But also, you know, to your point, you know, trying to keep in touch with people. I have each of the treasurers, not treasurers, each of the town clerks send me death certificates of, I think it has the next of kin. So we send the next of kin card, a condolence card, and our contact information, because so that way, because we have no, and I think a lot of times that you can find out the number of veterans who check off on the census, but you'll never know how many surviving spouses or how many family members of veterans are out there. So at least, at that point, I have an next of kin I can send a card to, and also they might be entitled to some benefits. Especially now, like with the PACT Act and, Agent Orange and stuff, I actually look at that certificate, and if they're a Vietnam veteran and they have one of the presumptives, I can initiate a claim for the widower, the surviving spouse, for a DIC claim. And so, just any way that I can.
How much would that be a month?
Yeah, like 1,000 maybe.
Something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's one of the reasons, that this office is successful. I feel like we do a lot to reach our veterans, and I think that we do a lot, even like once we get them in touch, doing like everything that we can, going that extra mile and not just, oh, okay, you got denied, sorry. I did my job, we don't do that here. And so with this certificate of recognition, it's going to reach some people who wouldn't come in for, they don't want to use the VA, or they don't want to put in for a claim or something. But they're like, oh, I'm a Cold War veteran, I'm being recognized, especially, like I said, I already talked to General Keefe, I'm like, I'll work around your schedule, but to receive a certificate like this from the Adjutant General of the Mass National Guard, I think would be huge. I think that they would love it.
But we really need to get Congress up and running.
Yeah. So that's something I'm excited about.
But that's good, John.
Yeah.
Do you want to just email us in the next couple of days, remind us of this and what you would like us to do as far as soliciting from our towns?
Yeah.
It's something that's popping into my head is maybe, but noticing with our utility bills, because that goes to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That type of
Good
thing.
idea.
So if you want to just email us what you're looking for, and then, you can announce that our respective channels.
Yeah, and then all the different Facebook groups or Instagram, I don't do Instagram, but each town has their like town crier or whatever, that has like, thousands. Yeah. And that's what I did with the Korean Ambassador for Peace Medal. And we had a huge turnout. This is Korean war vets. We had like 76 or whatnot receive medals that day. Not to mention all the ones after that, so I think that, I don't know, anything that we can do to help our veterans or give recognition, I think it's worth the time.
Good idea.
Do you have the veterans list from each of the towns?
Yes.
And you can, Georgetown, you're gonna keep us, send out emails of all the events that you're gonna be going to, so if we wanna drop in, if we're available, we can do so, because I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I don't take advantage of that enough, but I would like to,
Absolutely. We have a speaker, so that's gonna be, and so actually, as I'm saying this, I'm also, just thinking of, justification or explanation or whatnot of getting more hours for that position, because all of this, I'd like to do like a committee and whatnot. I guess my batteries. But you know what I mean? This isn't VA claims. This is like even more. This isn't chapter 115. This is even more. And I think these things are also important. I mean, chapter 115 and claims, that comes, you know, that's right off the bat and everything in veterans in crisis and stuff. So, you know, even when you're thinking about, oh, this is what we put in for the administrative assistant position, that's like on, you know, like a bare bones kind of day and everything. But if we want to do stuff to recognize veterans and to do these types of things, you don't see that in a job description. You know what I mean? And that's not something, you know. So.
But that's the kind of stuff that should go in the job description, you know, assistance with that type of, those types of outreach.
Well, I think that's a really good plug
Yeah.
for yourself and your office
Yeah.
also.
Right.
And I got in my notes about, you know, you wanting to speak to each of the select boards, maybe once every 6 months or something to, you know, to promote yourself. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
But again, it takes time and it, you know, it takes you, I mean, we're all pretty busy people, I think, you know, like that's what,
Well, you can see that, just
That's
trying
what-
to get everybody together for
that's
a
what
meeting.
service before self does.
Yeah.
You know, it's the name of the game.
Karen, what was the date for the?
Oh, so that is the 22nd at 2:00 in February. That's the Merrimack Valley Veterans Collaborative.
And that's in Georgetown, COA, you said?
Yep. I worked with Polly and stuff. I called her and asked her if we could use the cafeteria, so.
Anything else?
We actually almost had it in Newbury, but I guess the town manager is having a meeting in the COA that day, so you guys might be next. But we like to, you know, it was in like what the Andover, and it was, yeah.
All right, Karen,
Yeah, is that enough?
that's good. Always good. All right, moving on to set review team for director's review. Linda, would you and Michael, I know Michael's not here, but would you and Michael?
Well, that's what happens when you're not here. You get-
That's right.
And that's why you came today?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
So same process for last year.
Yeah.
I can work it. What do you tell us is the process pretty well?
I actually have a fantastic thing that I would like to give you. Newbury just came up with a Edward Collins, you know, public policy or whatnot. You're probably familiar with it. But anyways, so it has like the best practices. I have like a spreadsheet, like all different pages that are asking, you know, like, you know, 3 goals and 3 examples of things that you've done, you know, future goals, like how are you gonna, you know, and it does involve metrics and stuff, so I'll give that to you, prior to doing the whatchamacallit, the review.
Okay.
Do we have a deadline for the review this year?
We can discuss that next.
All right.
Okay, that's that. So next 7 is next meeting. We decided on that. That's gonna be the 22nd of March. So then the last at 6:30, and then the last is adjourned. Do you want to stay or?
Can I add one more thing to the next meeting?
Sure.
And that is, you know, we didn't get a chance to discuss it tonight, but we're getting that letter out to the state about the exemptions, you know, the property tax exemptions and having the state, you know, reimburse the towns more money than what they do. I would like to, I want to continue working on that. I haven't done much on it. You and I were going to vote very good. I was going to say you and I.
All right.
So we have it, let's talk about it next month,
All right, put that on the agenda.
please.
I'm sorry, I sent it to Karen because I didn't want to break any rules and send it out to people individually, so.
Any other suggestions for next month? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Have a second? I have a second. All right, everyone in favor? Aye.